Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever played a game of chess and just not know what to play next? Like your opponent plays a move on chess.com and you just don't know how to reply. So you blunder all your pieces in a singular move and you rage quit your whole chess career. Well, today we're going to be looking at a similar game between two masters. Nimzowitsch, one of the most popular authors in all of chess, writing the very popular My System, in Sämisch, who not wrote but made one of the most popular variations in the King's Indian defense, known as the Sämisch variation, which is with f3. Today, we're going to be looking at the Immortal Zugzwang game. As I described, it's a game where basically Sämisch rage quitted, and Nimzowitsch had one of his best games of his life, arguably the best game of his life. So let's dive into it. We have Sämisch is white, so he plays d4. And we enter a King's Indian, since this guy is literally known for the King's Indian. e6. Instead of King's Indian, we transpose into a Nimzo Indian. Supposedly because, well, Nimzowitsch probably knew that Sämisch was a really good player at the King's Indian, so he didn't want to risk his chances and play the regular King's Indian stuff, g3. So, we have knight to f3. So now basically Sämisch is saying, I'm not going to play my variation, but I am taking you back to the King's Indian. And so instead he's like, okay, I'll just play b6 and we'll transpose into a sort of odd queen's, not odd, but this transposes into the Queen's Indian defense. It's kind of the King's Indian, except your goal is to put your bishop on b7 and sort of play without playing the major center break, e5. You're just going to play kind of, you could say, ready, but opposite sides. g3. So Sämisch is contesting this fianchetto of the bishops. We have, sorry for that noise. Yeah. So we have bishop to e7, bishop to g2, bishop to e7. So Nimzowitsch is obviously just going to develop. He doesn't have to do anything else. He's putting his bishop on the dark square, blah, blah, blah. Knight to c3. And so now Sämisch is saying, okay, you put your bishop on e7, you're not going to move it to b5, so I'm safe to play knight to f3. It's knight to c3. Castles, castles, and e5. So in certain cases, this is possible, like the variation Nimzowitsch plays, where now white is kind of forced to take, unless he wants to gambit the pawn, or play knight to e5. Those are two possible options. Taking is probably less secure, since now black doesn't have to worry about any sort of center space issues. I mean, not center space issues, but, various bishop blocked, other kinds of issues. And black, I would say, is actually completely fine after these two moves. But this is actually considered the main line. Not the main line, but one of the better lines. Because white can play knight to e5 here and now pin the pieces. Because if you capture, you recapture. It's not really a pin, but now white has really secure control of these light squares, which will be met up with queen to a4 in a dominant position. So what black has to do here is, well, not take and probably play just something like knight to d7 and chill, just do nothing really, and try to trade off the pieces. Instead, we have the more ambitious approach, which is knight to e5, but Nimzowitsch here plays a mistake. c6. You should generally play not c5, but knight to d7. I mean, c6 is theory, but who plays this kind of stuff? This is really passive. I get that you're securing the d5 pawn, but be more aggressive. Play knight to b to d7, and now you're threatening more stuff, rather than this really passive move. And after c takes d5, c takes d5, bishop to f4. I mean, I don't know. Bishop to f4, I don't think now. I don't know what's happening. Okay. Bishop to f4 now, I think it's a bit more of an urgent situation that would call for something like maybe f4 and maybe rook to e1, e4, for example. Here, here, takes, takes. These are not really the best moves. And maybe something like this. And white has pretty decent initiative in this position, controlling the dark squares, etc., etc. I mean, black isn't lost only because he has the dark squares, dark squared bishop. Let's imagine a position where these bishops are traded off. I'll just create one. And now actually black is much worse because um these these squares are of course really great for the knight firstly, and the knight can not be contested. This knight right now will take a few moves to move to a square to contest the counterpart, which will take about 3 moves usually for a maneuver like that. But in this case, it's pretty hard to actually get there. Let's just say black could. Still, the knight is going to be traded off for the other knight. And after queen takes, let's just imagine a sequence where the knight gets there. I'm just going to recreate one like I said before. I'm just going to put a no move here. And then no move. No move. Okay. So if we imagine a position like this, still, you have to, yeah, you can, what was that? You can play here. I don't know what is happening. This computer just hates me really badly. And now, I'm not saying it's really bad, but you'll have to deal with this passed d-pawn, which is going to be really annoying because that means that all your rook will have to permanently defend this pawn while the other 2 rooks can get active. For example, rook to c8. Let's just... Okay, that was bad. Never mind. Yeah, rook to c8. And now white has really freedom to do anything. I just went back so many moves. I don't know what's happening. Oh, yeah. So white has the freedom to do really whatever he wants because... What is happening? Bishop to c... No, but not bishop. Queen takes d6. E takes d6, yeah. So white has the freedom to do whatever he wants. Let's just say rook to d2. And now this pawn will be a really big problem. You see, as black will have to deal with it. While this rook is a bit active, but it can easily be dealt with since it doesn't have any good squares. So rather than getting into a position like that with a move like f4, which is obviously one of the best moves because it has also an idea to play f5. Let's say, not now, but later maybe. f5, and now you're starting a kingside attack, which is going to be scary for white. I mean black. So, instead we have the more passive bishop to f4, which I don't like. a6. So now, for some reason, Nimzowitsch developed like 3 of his pieces, and he really doesn't want to develop his knight to d7 for some reason. I mean, I can say a lot of things about this move, but all you really need to know is just to develop your pieces. because look at this development. It's pretty bad right now. White definitely has a clear slight advantage in this position. So a6 is odd. Rook to c1, regular move, taking control of the c file. We have b5. I mean, I don't get the idea of this move. If you're going to play something so sophisticated like a6, b5, play it later. Develop your pieces now. But Nimzowitsch is Nimzowitsch, so he does whatever he wants. And he develops his knight. Queen to b3 is an interesting move. A move recommended is queen to b3. And now knight to e4 here actually gets a lot of initiative. If knight takes c4, rook takes c6. So you might play de4 and you're like, oh my god, I win a pawn, I'm so crazy. But you don't win much because look at this activity brewing for white, Sämisch. His activity is more than enough for his pawn. And Nimzowitsch isn't going to like this so much. But instead Sämisch misses his chance and plays h3, which I yet again don't know what it does. If you are scared of knight to g4, you should not be playing chess. If you were scared, I don't know what really. If you play h3 doesn't do anything. There's never gonna be back rank mate. And if you thought, oh, maybe there's not a move to play, well, here you go, knight a4. And these are two esteemed grandmasters, so they obviously probably saw this. But that didn't happen, and we have queen to d7, which defends the bishop. And king to h2, it's such a sophisticated move that it does absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. There is no, I mean, the only explanation I have for Sämisch is that he is trying to play g4 and g5, and then like rook to g1, and then bishop to f3. But I don't even know how you're going to start an attack, because black just has too many moves. Firstly, knight to h5, bishop to d2, and f5 is a mistake, actually, because there's a really interesting idea in this position, which I found. There's knight to b1 or knight to e1. The idea, I would rather choose knight to e1. And the idea is that, well, Nimzowitsch is coming down this side, right? And so he's going to be trying to pressure this pawn on I can't do anything, f2. With fg3, he's just going to put pressure down the f file. So that it's a double-sided idea. Let's say he plays f5 immediately. Now the f pawn is defended in a move like, I don't know, bishop to f3. Well, you don't have to play bishop to f3 now. A simple move like maybe, I don't know, actually. Bishop to f3 would now work out immediately. But let's say you don't have bishop to f3. Let's say you played e3 or something. Well, here it's pretty bad because there is this. Okay, whatever. So the idea is that now the knight is coming out to help the king side and can play knight to e3 and is defending the pawns. Same idea for knight to b1, except a bit different. The idea is that they're trying to prevent any pushes. If here, instead of anything else, you have bishop to f3. And the idea is now actually that, I missed this when I said it earlier, but this queen also helps defend this pawn. So knight to b1, I wouldn't play it, but it is also possible, and with the same idea that this queen is helping out and it can come over. So instead, we have queen to d1. So I missed this opportunity. b4. Oh yeah, by the way, f5. Instead, you should play the immediate b4 and gone for this kind of thing. But instead, we have it now, and it's not that different. Black is simply forcing the white knight back, and now the queen can't even join the party. So it's a plus for Nimzowitsch. So we have bishop to b5. He's attacking e2, putting pressure. And he is opening the c file for a potential rook to join it. And we have rook to g1. The e pawn can move now. I don't know why would you do that. And I guess see, like, this is where Sämisch's odd plan comes in. He's going to try to attack Nimzowitsch somehow, which won't work out well, but it's a plan. So now Nimzowitsch starts putting pressure. He might continue up with f4 in sorts, and he's going to belligerently attack Sämisch. We have e4. He sacrifices the pawn. I don't get what its point is. I'm not sacrifice. He attacks the knight, and Nimzowitsch is like full steam forward. We're gonna destroy Sämisch. He sacrifices the knight, but this is a good sacrifice because, as you can see, Sämisch's position is really falling apart. He can't put a rook on f1 because of the bishop. And pressure is quickly coming down this file. So Sämisch is going to have some problems. Queen to g5. I don't know what the purpose of, this is. There's no specific reason. You can play anything else. I imagine you can play, a3 and try to activate your knight. It's kind of a hopeless position, but there's still some hope. Oh yeah, by the way, don't take like this. Okay, whatever. You probably knew that. So we have queen to j5. It doesn't really matter what move you play because the continuation is putting extreme pressure on Sämisch. Rook to f8, attacking the queen, forcing it back, and now the queen is in a lock. And here we see an interesting position because if you look closely, Sämisch doesn't have any good moves. Sämisch doesn't have any good moves because if you look at the position, I said that twice. He only has these rook moves to play. All the other moves are losing material or losing the game immediately. For example, a3 without a threat will fail to the queen trap. So, rook c to e1 is the only move protecting, but now this is the legendary Zugzwang move. And here Sämisch actually resigned because white has no moves. The only move in this position would have been the only move. You can play h6, h5, g5, it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter because if you play h5, there is h4. And the idea is that white has no moves. If you say, I can play a move, a3, okay, good job, you just lost your queen. If you capture here, the queen is still trapped. That's the whole point of h6. So, let's go through a few of the moves. So, rook to d1, rook to e2. Let's go through all the possible moves, actually. Well, most of them. Rook to d1, rook to e2. Rook to c1, rook to e2. Bishop to c1 drops the bishop or the knight. Drops the... Wait, this is the wrong move. Wait, bishop to c... Wait, one second. Bishop to c1... Yeah, bishop to c1 drops the knight. Bishop to f1, drops the bishop. a3, like I said earlier, loses to the queen. h4 looks like a decent move, but same thing. You lose the queen. g4, you lose the queen. And you lose the queen. And you can play any move and it loses. b3, you lose the queen. So if you think about it using process of elimination, the only way to not lose the queen is to protect from the f3 square, which cannot be achieved because the queen is trapped. So let's say you can't play anything because you can play rook to f1, but then you lose 2 pieces. So in the end, Sämisch resigned after he played this. He played g4. I think he resigned right here. Yeah. And then here. No, he didn't. And then rook to h2, checkmate. And that was how the game ended. Thank you for your viewership. Like and subscribe. Check out some of my other videos and see you later.